Hello, I'm Mike Peters from The Alarm. Thanks for watching Music News.
Right, Mike Peters, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Firstly, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's a great venue to be here at Union Chapel in Islington, London. And good to be alive and relishing being on tour.
Absolutely. Looking forward to an acoustic performance. Is it just sort of yourself on stage tonight?
It is, but it's different to most acoustic shows you've probably seen. It's like a one-man band, really.
Yeah.
I play drums with my feet and loop with drums, and then I play guitar. But my guitar's not like anyone else's guitar. It's an acoustic guitar with an electric pickup under the hood, and I have blends of the two. And and I have microphones that I can sing to left and right of stage and in the centre as well. So it's quite dynamic in its own way.
Yeah.
And it's a liberating show. I can go on. I don't have a set list. I just walk on and feel the audience and start playing, and then I can go wherever it needs to go as well. And so I really enjoy it because I've got a lot of songs that I can play, and it's nice to bring them out as the movement and the mood of the concert evolves.
400 songs you can choose from, really.
Something like that, yeah, probably more than that now.
Yeah. And congratulations on the new album Forwards, just listening to it now. It's great, very uplifting record, considering that you were sort of battling adversity, probably during most of the writing of that. How come it's come out so positive?
Well, I wanted to make a record that was aspirational to where I wanted to get. When I was in hospital and I was facing some serious life challenges, all I wanted to do was get back to life itself. And in hospital in modern era times now, I don't think the nursing staff and the doctors they can't really afford to give you too much hope, really, too much false hope. They have to deal with the facts, because we live in quite litigious times, and if someone says something that doesn't match up with people's expectation of the outcome in hospital, it can be used against the staff, and so everyone's kind of guarded. So I had to sort of create my own soundtrack of hope, really, to be able to emerge from the situation. And I was lucky enough I was allowed to bring my guitar into the hospital because I knew I was going to be there for a long time, and I was just playing quietly, just keep my fingers going, really, keep my fingers alive, keeps the movement, and I go back on the IV and then back on the guitar, and it was post-pandemic, and there was protocols in place because of the pandemic, so everyone was kind of spread out in the ward. And I was just playing quietly, but then the other members of the inmates on the ward, as we came known to each other, play a bit louder. They enjoyed the sound, and so they encouraged me to keep playing, so I could kind of play in a normal way. And then with all the noises of the hospital, the heart monitors or the alarms that are going off when drugs are running out, and they became like a little soundtrack and a little rhythm track. It became my like in-house band, and that allowed me to sort of realise some of the new song ideas that were starting to come to my imagination, and before I knew it, there were songs being written, and the album Forwards came as a result of it all.
Yeah, were there times that you thought the album might not be made?
There was definitely a time when I did the first set of demos. I came straight out of hospital at one time, and then I got one set of songs down, and I was able to sing them once each, and it was all in one mad day, and I put them all down, and then I started to then have to ingest a brand new drug that I was moving on to, and it took about 4 weeks to know if this new drug was going to work for me. I had to start having it in increments and teaching my body how to deal with the drug before I get to the full dosage, and that really stripped my voice. And when we started making the record, the producer George Williams said, look, he loved the demos I've made straight away. He said they're instinctive, that you've got everything right, tempos, keys, so let's not lose what you've already created, let's just add to it, build on top of it, and use those as the guides. And then when we got quite far into it, George said, look, Mike, I think you're really going to need to sing this record. The vocals are good, but you rush them down a day using your handheld microphone, and we need to get a really good sound. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to sing. And then I sort of took a dive off the deep end, put a microphone up myself in my own little studio, and wham, the voice came. And I was so relieved. I just sang the whole album in one night, and as I went to the next track, and I was, and instead of having to live with a sort of posthumous set of vocals, which I thought we might have had to do at one point, I was able to sort of give it everything I got. But in real times, the whole record was made in probably 12 days of actual time. There was little gaps in between while hospital things had to happen and different things in the process, but 12 days of actual time.
Well, it's a fantastic album. I mean, I love track 6. I mean, they're all great, but track 6, Bathes You in Sunshine, practically. Was that sort of John Lennon inspired then?
Well, it was. I was in the hospital again, and you're clinging on to anything that can help you get through the hours, because it was a long time, and again, it was post-pandemic, so there were still protocols in place, and visiting was one small window for one person a day, and that was it. So it got quite lonely. So I started, there's only so much you can surf on the internet and all this. And so they had the headphones, the hospital radio, and I stuck them on, and they played Whatever Gets You Through the Night by John Lennon. And I remember thinking, because I love John Lennon, thinking I hadn't heard the song for ages, and I thought, never mind the night, what am I going to do to get through life itself? Whatever gets you through this life, and then there's another take on the song appeared in my imagination, and luckily I had my guitar, so I was able to sort of transcribe it, because I don't ever sit down and think I'm going to write a song. I don't know how to do that. I don't know music scales. I don't know how to do guitar solos. I don't really know what chords are supposed to follow next. I just work out. I have ideas in my mind, and then I just use the guitar as a midwife to bring them into the world. That's it. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, C, G, A minor, great. Oh, and then the F. Okay, brilliant. But the melody's going on in your head first, and then I find the chords, and because I had the guitar there, I was able to just quietly sing it into my iPhone for future reference, and I was able to type lyrics into my phone, into the notes section of my phone, and then I came home, and we'd had the experience in lockdown of making an album in 50 days. And we wrote, recorded it, and released it all in that time frame, and it was challenging. And I remember going on the internet, but all brave and full of bravado. What happened was we saw the Capitol building get invaded, and we were all in lockdown. And thought, now it's becoming, it's not just about us against the virus. We're all turning on each other because we're all locked up, and everyone was getting frustrated. And the Capitol building seemed to be like the last straw. I said, let's make a record about the lockdown. I never wanted to do one, so I thought, but let's do it. But if we're going to do it, let's do it in lockdown. Write it, record it, and release it before we're let up free into the world again. And we literally did make the record in 50 days. But when I went on the net, we're going to make a record. Then I sat down and think, but what if it's no good? Oh no, we're committed. So there was a lot of jeopardy, but we made a fantastic record, and that got brilliantly received. So good, we had to put it out twice. We kind of wrote it and released it, and then deleted it straight away, and then everyone gave it the most amazing reviews. We had to put it out in the record shops because people were asking for it everywhere. But for a band, we learned how to work fast, and through file sharing, we realised we all had our own studios. We learned how to connect them up, and some of that played its part in making the Forwards album quite immediate. The other bit of luck I had, because normally you can't make a record straight after a process like I've been through and release it, because there's a lot of shortages on vinyl and the lead times are so long. And we were about a week into the record, and then I got a call from a distributor saying, I've just had a massive order cancelled for vinyl pressing. Have you got anything going? I went, yes. And probably because we'd made the last album without thinking about it, I said, I'll get it to you by Monday. And it was like, what if we don't finish the record on time? But I took a risk by saying I'd take this vinyl pressing. But what it did was it put us 3 months ahead of the game. So I can talk about the record now rather than another 3 months further down the line when it might not have the same immediacy. Absolutely, it would still be the same record, but it gave, again, impetus to the last few days of the record to get it done and dusted. And because I think it was all. I came tumbling out of hospital, and the next minute I'm recording songs, and I think even myself was thinking, have I got time? Is this right? You know, should we be doing this? It's just felt very instinctive, and sometimes you think, hang on, should I just stop and wait and really get my health back properly? Or but I was so eager to get out of hospital and so eager to come home, and you know, I'd spent a lot of the nights when I wasn't on the IV. I would walk the hospital corridors because they were empty. Again, there was no visiting times. So I had the hospital to myself, and I'd walk, and I was trying to keep my body mass going, keep my muscle strength alive. And I was determined to come out of hospital on my own 2 feet. I didn't want my kids to see me coming home, you know, with assistance or in a wheelchair or a stick. I just wanted to walk and come home as normal as I possibly could. So that was a big driving force. And again, that sort of, the record was my way of reassuring myself that, you know, and giving me something to aim for and say, I'm going to return back to life. I'm going to find another way. And all those situations that I found myself in real life became the subject of the songs. Yeah.
I mean, what's your favourite track on the album?
I find it hard I always find it hard to have a favourite song, because they all start in the same way, and they're like my kids, you know. You can't say which one's your favourite. So it's down to other people to say what your favourite song is. But playing them live, I like playing new standards. I've been playing that. I've been playing about 6 of the songs. I think maybe 7 I've played now on these few dates. So they can all stand up to playing in the concert environment. I'm sure. But it's in that moment where you realise some stand up better than others, and that starts to influence you over which songs I wouldn't say they're your favourites, but they're the ones you like playing best live. I think so.
I mean, 45 years on the road, you know, a lot of ups and downs, obviously. What has been your greatest sort of musical accomplishment or musical moment?
It's being here today, you know, getting out of hospital, you know, using the music that I've been part of to be able to inform, educate people about what cancer can be. When I was first heard the word cancer, naturally assumed it was a death sentence. It's now clear cut, and I think my music's put me in a position to be able to show people that you can live with a cancer diagnosis, you can carry on, you don't need to stop running, you don't need to stop going out, you don't need to stop going to concerts or football matches or church classes, anything. It's don't let cancer take any of that away from you. Live with cancer alongside as much of your normal life as you can. Don't give up your normal life because you've got cancer. And you know, we've been able to take our music and create a programme where we've called Get on the List, where we've registered over 250,000 people to the stem cell donor registry. We found over 5,000 life-saving matches for people who need bone marrow transplants, stem cell transplants. So that's really probably the greatest achievement, I would say, of all of it. Is it's putting the music to good use externally, or within the music environment of the touring, and making a small difference to people who have been affected by cancer.
I mean, and are you still running then? Where do you find the energy?
Well, I find it hard to run right now. The new drug I'm on, it's an oral chemotherapy. I take it every day. Wow. And I have to go into hospital for every couple of weeks for an IV session as well. And so it impacts on my movement of joints and things. So I'm working. I'm stepping back into the running because I'm determined to overcome some of the restrictions. And the more, again, the drug I'm on now, it's quite aggressive, and a lot of people can't take the kind of dosage I'm on. So I'm quite lucky; it agrees with me. So I've been able to stay on this high dosage, but a lot of people have to step down the drug because it can impact on your life. So I've just got to get the balance right over the coming months now. But I'm feeling really confident, and you know, I do go out. You know, I've started to get into 3 or 4 milers and things like that. So I'm getting there, and I'm, you know, I did a good 12-mile hike the other day. I've got to be fit because I've got Snowdon Rocks next weekend, or 2 weekends, and that's going to be a big climbing weekend. And then in September we're going to the Alps. We're hiking there for 5 days with Love, Hope, Strength. Excellent. To raise funds for our cancer awareness programme and life-saving projects.
But I mean, when you first took up the guitar, did you think you'd still be rocking at this age?
Not really. When I started playing the guitar, it was still, you know, punk rock hadn't happened by that point. It was still you know, the superstar domain. You thought. I thought maybe I could get into a band in Rill and play on the seafront and do cover versions, but it was when I saw the Sex Pistols, I thought, well, maybe I could write a song. I'll have a go at that, and then I thought I could be aspirational enough to maybe make it my life. But I didn't think I'd be at the coalface of creative music for such a long time. I thought sometimes, you know, I pinch myself sometimes. There's a song on the album called Love and Forgiveness, and I think I remember lying in hospital thinking, I know there's a record brewing, because there was a man came into the hospital while I was on the ward, and he was hovering around in my bed, and it was strange because there's no visitors normally allowed, and he said, "It's Mike Pete, isn't it?" You know, and yeah. And he goes, "I'm a massive fan." He goes, "My dad's down the ward and flown back from America because he's not very well, and thought this might be our last chance to be with him." And he said, I was telling all the Alarm fans last night, Mike's on the cancer centre next to my dad, you know. I was thinking, no, it's out.
Exactly.
So I had to write a letter to reassure all the fans, because they were all getting panicking, and the ones that loved me the most, you know. And so I wrote this letter, and I signed it off with the words that I'd never used to sign off a letter. I wrote forwards at the end of the letter. As soon as I wrote the letter, I thought, that's got to be a record, you know. That's why I'm here in this predicament in the first place, and it just seemed to help make sense of things, and I was able to turn it into music and a way out.
Yeah. I mean, the fans, though, you mentioned there, that you have got such a loyal bunch of fans. I mean, I've been lucky to come to your gigs for years, and it is that sort of the extra sort of 10% you need the most when you're sort of seeing yourself through the dark times?
Oh, very much so, yeah, because especially nowadays, the fans become omnipresent in your life, because you know, they're on social media. That we have an open phone line. We have the Gathering every year. We've had 30 years of the Gathering to get to know our audience, and it's not just a gig where we're not just on stage. You know, we've organised, fans have come on hikes with us and raised funds for the cancer centres that we support around the world, and they become our friends. We get to know them, and it's a real relationship, and so you can't escape them. So when you're trying to fight back from a life-threatening, challenging situation, it's as much for them as it's for your own immediate family as well, and it gives you a lot to stay alive for. You know, a lot to live for, and you know, I'm really lucky that people still come to see me play, and they're liberated enough to allow me to play new music as well. You know, they don't choke me by demanding the old stuff all the time, and I'm very fortunate, and you know, I think we've been creative with our career, and we can make it varied, and I can go and play a small gig and still play a big gig as well, and I can meet those challenges head on. Yeah,
I mean, but you always giving it 100% on stage, you know. And that's why everyone keeps coming back. But is that where you sort of you're best suited to? Is that
look, when we learnt a lot from U2 when we first played with them. You know, our first proper introduction to rock and roll and the lifestyle was going on tour with the Stray Cats. Now, I don't know if we'd done that for much longer. I don't know if we'd have survived it. You know, it was a high end, proper sex, drugs and rock and roll tour, and I don't think you can live with those for very long. And then when we met U2, when we'd reorganised ourselves as the Alarm and learned from our mistakes, when we just saw a band that lived for the moment, and they were our first gig with them in America, for instance, was in front of 8,000 people in San Francisco, and then the next night we played with them to 500 people in Salt Lake City, but it was the same band on stage. You two were the same 8,000 or 500, and that's what I aspired to. And I thought, I want to be that. I want to be, if I'm playing for 30 people at an Alarm staycation, they still got to get that same energy and commitment to the music that they can expect if we're playing, you know, at Cardiff Castle with the Colts or something like that, which we're going to be doing on July the 4th, and playing to thousands and thousands of people. So That's always what I've been like. But I've learned that sometimes you can't go in with the same music power. Sometimes if you play into a small intimate gig, you can't, put the whole band on stage and because it become overwhelming. Sometimes I can play it quieter and it can be just as powerful because you shift the emphasis to being about lyrics rather than the physicality of the music or the sentiment of the song that we all sing together and create these amazing moments. Sometimes it's great to make them intimate. You take them down different journeys through the Alarm Songbook, and more can be revealed in powerful ways that maybe you don't see when it's on the grand scale. And I relish the diversity of being able to go and play on my own with the band, with other musicians, like with Billy Duffy, or when I played with Slim Jim and Captain Sensible. And you learn things all the time, and you bring that back to your own music, and it keeps it fresh. It's always being regenerated all the time, and I'm lucky to have that. And because a lot of bands I know, there's a lot of contemporary bands that haven't made new records for long periods of time, and I think sometimes then it's all about the back catalogue, and there's only so many times you can go on stage and go, the song we usually finish with, we're going to open with tonight, and then we're going to flop them on the next tour, and it's like, but because I think for me the lifeblood of the Alarm has always been about having new music in the mix all the time. Just like I need new blood to stay alive all the time, the Alarm does too. And it's when you bring 4 or 5 songs in from forwards into the set list, it freshens up 68 Guns and the Stand. They're living alongside other books in the library, and they've got they can breathe in different ways, and I love that. I think that's a really important part. Even when you look back at the Beatles, the amount of albums they made in that short period of time, I think that creativity keeps bands alive, and you've got to have that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned the Sex Pistols as being a sort of a life-changing gig. For me, it was at the Lyceum, 17th of May 1984, the first time I saw the Alarm, New Model Army supporters.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do. There was 2 nights. I think we had played with the Go-Betweens the night before or the night after. But the New Model Army gig was that lives long with a lot of Alarm fans.
I just couldn't believe music could be that good.
Yeah.
It just opened my eyes.
It was an amazing gig, and we were very aware of New Model Army at that time. We'd been got into them early on, and we knew them, and we'd see them growing with our fans as well. And they became, they're a really important band, and I really admired Justin and all they do. And I've seen them in America and Britain and in Germany. I've seen them in lots of places, and I think that was a seminal gig for all of us. Really, it really it took the New Model Army out of the underground. Really, it really showed what they were capable of doing on a big stage. It just like it happened for us when we played some of the shows of the U2. We came alive, and. It was going on stage after a band like New Model Army, it's not easy, and but it was a fantastic night, and I'll never forget it. And our fans still talk about that show. It was incredible, and what a great venue the Lyceum was.
Yeah, absolutely
amazing.
I mean, luckily I've seen you in various stages over the 45-year career. I mean, it must have been an amazingly hard decision to quit the Alarm in the first place.
Yeah.
And having to knowing when the time was right to sort of bring it back. How did that?
Well, look, at 91, I think the tension of the creativity, the creative tension had got the better of us. It was we weren't good at appreciating each other, I don't think. And so we found it hard to play new songs to each other, and I think it started to become more of a challenge every time, because it was just people didn't want to. Certain people in the band wanted to just do songs out of nothing that were just generated from anybody. And some people in the band thought it's not the Alarm's not about the songs, it's about the people on stage. That's what the Alarm is. But to me, it was always about the songs. That was what defined the band, and so that was where a lot of creative tension was in that. And then we also had some real big life challenges came into our lives at that time as well. And also, people had met other outside influences, and Nigel and Dave had both gone to live in America in the late 80s, and it's hard to be in a band when you've got 2 people in Britain and 2 in America, and we want to rehearse. Okay, well, see you in 3 weeks. It just doesn't. The immediacy goes out of it, and so it became one of those sort of impracticable situations that was tougher to go on. And Dave was doing his solo album. The sort of final straw for me came. We got offered into the Great Wide Open tour with Tom Petty, and we couldn't do it because Dave had his solo album coming out, and it was sort of the first time that the band hadn't come first, and then the label were filming the Brixton gig because there was no further tour dates, and the Raw album had only been out 2 months, and they wanted to keep promoting it, so they decided to do a live recording and film it. And Dave in the dressing room said, "I can't stay. I'm playing in New York tomorrow night," which he was. History book will show that. And so he couldn't stay for any meetings. So I thought, well, I might as well say it on stage tonight. And it was so tough. In fact, I thought Dave was saying it before me. He stumbled his intro for One Step Close to Home. He went, "This one's called One Step Close to Home." "No, it's not. It's called God Save Somebody." And everyone thought I thought he was so nervous at the microphone. I thought he was actually going to say he was leaving the band, and then I did it, and that was it. And then we never fell out because we didn't allow that moment to happen where we confronted each other and said things that you really regret. To me, what I was right or wrong, I was influenced by the David Bowie moment, I suppose, and it was a rock and roll thing, and then the band kept coming back to me and saying, "Can we put the group together?" Especially Nigel called me around the time my Breathe album was coming out, and I said, "Okay, okay, we'll do it, but I've got to promote this album and all that." And then in the meantime, then Dave got another solo deal for his Downtown America record, and then he didn't want to do The Alarm, and so when he said, "I'm not going to do it," Nigel wouldn't do The Alarm either, but they said to me and Eddie, "You go ahead." And so we put the band back together, and Eddie wanted to call it The Alarm AD, and his joke was it was called after Dave. And then because we could have called it The Alarm with no suffix after it, and we just decided that it'd be better if people didn't know, there was something to at least indicate that it wasn't the original band or anything like that. And so we went out with Big Country as The Alarm 2000, and we played about 8 shows, and then Eddie decided he'd had enough. Everything had changed so much from when he'd been in the band 10 years previous. He just wanted to get back to photography and his normal work in that field, which is brilliant. And so I was left as the last man standing, and originally I thought, we'll just go out and we'll play, like I've done with Eddie, just the songs that we'd worked together on, and The Alarm was known for in the 80s. I didn't want to put any solo songs in there, or I thought, we'll just go out and play songs that the people know as being The Alarm. But then the fans kept saying to me, "When are you going to do a new Alarm album?" And so I thought, the calling came and I couldn't resist it. And I went into the studio, I had 12 songs, and as soon as I started recording, I thought, I've got so much to say about about that, about the future, about the present, about what's happened. I need a bigger canvas, so we created a project called In the Poppy Fields, which was 5 albums in 4 months. And it was like a magazine subscription, and we forced ourselves to create 5 albums. And when I say forced, that's what it felt like it was, but I knew we weren't really forcing it. I knew it was going to pour out, and it did. And the 5 Poppy Fields records together are a pretty magnificent bit of music, a great set of songs. I'll be playing some of them tonight, and then that gave rise to 45 RPM, and boom, the subterfuge of the Poppy Fields fake band took us right back into the public eye like never before, and the band was back in existence, but in a new way altogether.
Yeah, and long may it continue.
Yeah,
amazing. I just one thing, your sort of health issues, have they sort of ever sort of changed your religious outlook in any way?
No, not really. I've always had faith. I've never been religious as such. You know, I've always thought I am who I am, and I pray where I pray, and believe where I believe, where I want to, and in any shape or form.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I've never sort of saw God in church. He lives out there in the street far more than he does in here, and I've always related to it outside. And when I was ill, I've never sort of thought, why me, or anything like that, because I'm sort of quite accepting. Maybe because, you know, I think we are here for a purpose. There is more to come, and that sort of helped me in some ways. So I'm not afraid of death. I never have been. I'm always grateful for the time. You know, cancer's made me more aware of tomorrow, and I always say that to people that, you know, sometimes I think cancer's been a blessing as well as a curse in my life, and because it's led me to some situation I've never have got to, and and that's why I think if there is God out there, then if He's guiding me, sometimes it's not in the ways I want to, but I have to accept that sometimes maybe sending me down that path, although it's more challenging than how it looks to me, going in that direction. All of a sudden, Mike, you've got cancer, you've got to go down this road now. But it can still be a beautiful journey, and when you get through it, you can have some incredible positive outcomes. And you know, I always say to people, I know we can't all live forever because the breakthroughs in cancer, but we've all got a fighting chance to get to tomorrow, and that should. If you had a choice and said, well, you can either go now or have one more day, everyone's going to say, I want one more day. You know, a friend recently had to fly home from Australia because his mum was passing, and she hung on till he got there, and they had 5 minutes and she passed. And he said that those 5 minutes are the most beautiful 5 minutes I've ever had in my whole life.
Yeah. And
sometimes life challenges can reveal some incredible beauty as well. And because it's such a short life anyway, you might as well, you know, make the most of every single opportunity, and just in case you don't wake up tomorrow, then at least you've gone out in a blaze of glory, as the alarm say. Yeah.
What do you do to relax then?
I like walking. I got my wife Jules and our dog Ziggy. We go off everywhere walking together, and I love that. And I love going off into the mountains. I love all the silence, and we have some amazing conversations when you're away from the phones and the household, and the business and the studio and the music, and you just get out there in the wide open. That's what I love endlessly, and it's always been. It's always cool to me to get out there into the mountains, really, and that's why I've always loved living in Wales, because it affords a lot of silence. When we came here to London in the 80s, I never liked it, and you know, I like the energy of London, I love it all, but creatively I find it restricting. We used to go and rehearse sometimes in Easy Hire, not far from here, and you'd have like the subway going, and then you could hear Motorhead next door and Aswad in another room. When you're trying to be creative with all this noise around you, I find it really difficult. So I was very keen for us to relocate back to Wales as much as we could to be creative, because I think silence is an important commodity in your life.
Absolutely, everything in balance.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks a lot for your time.
Oh, Marco, brilliant, thanks.
Pleasure. For somebody that hasn't heard of The Alarm, not many people, but what 3 songs would you say, check these out, they sort of sum me up as an artist from across your whole career?
Strength, from the Strength album, Give Me Love, Give Me Hope, Give Me Strength.
Great.
Unsafe Building, the very first one, because rebuild your life, rebuild your home, rethink your values, rethink yourself right through. That's something you have to do every day in life to stay relevant. And then Forwards from the new album, you know, living for the moment, living for today, trying to find the way forwards. That's trying to find a way to tomorrow or the next 5 minutes. But they can all bring great things into your life if you can stay focused on what lies ahead and not get dragged down by disappointments.
Yeah.
And but you know, there's always another way.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Great, Marco. Thanks a lot.
Anything else to say to the Music News watchers out there?
Enjoy life, guys. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Cheers, Marco. Brilliant.